Everyone, welcome to our latest episode of Better Humans at Work. I couldn't be more thrilled than to be joined by my biz bestie, none other than Sertrice Shipley. Thank you for being here with us today.
Hello, excited to be here.
So Sertrice is CEO and founder of Plan to Action, and she's also co-author of the book Inclusilytics, which we wrote together, which is very exciting. We'll have some book talk here shortly. But she, at Plan to Action, serves her clients by helping them build more data-driven DEI strategy and really taking companies to the next level when it comes to their DEI implementation. Beyond what she does with Plan to Action, she's also deeply committed to community service. So she holds the prestigious position of chair of the board for Blacks in IO, one of my favorite organizations. She serves on the board for the Lori Daniels Center Board of Advisors for Go Be Kids and the Radford IO Program Board of Advisors. You're just like a board boss.
All the boards.
You're a board boss. And Sertrice is also a respected DEI thought leader and public speaker. She's been invited to speak at prominent events such as the Society for Human Resource Management, which we have some updates on that too, Society for Iowa Psychology, various chamber events across the United States. Sertrice resides in Raleigh, North Carolina with her husband, Abraham, and their dog, Winston. And she's just amazing. And we're so lucky to have her today. So thank you again for being here.
Yes, always happy to be here.
So I thought because it's the morning, people are drinking their coffee and tea. I thought we would spill a little tea about our update this year, because Sertrice used to be the amazing co-founder and chief consulting officer at Mattingly. And we worked together, was it 3 years? Almost 3 years?
Yeah,
about 3 years. Mm-hmm. And then we decided to split the company into two, because no company needs two CEOs, right? And so, I've had people come up to me, Sertrice, and be like, so what's the deal with you and Sertrice? Like, what's going on? And so, how do you answer that question? And how can we just spill the tea for those out there who are curious about our business adventures?
Yeah. So it depends on who I'm talking to, but one of the things I think is so important to realize for those who are in entrepreneurship or have interest in it is especially when you're small, you only have but so many resources, right? And when we were reflecting on, our priorities, and we saw, I like to help organizations who are early on in their journey and need handholding. You love to dream big and innovate and lead the industry. And those are two completely different markets. And so to work and put energy into attracting potential clients from two whole markets, that's a lot of work, time, and money, right? And so this gave us the space to both narrow in and focus on what we want and have a healthy work-life balance, because that was always really important to us, right? We could have done it, but we would have had to been working our butts off. This gave us space to where now we can focus and do as much as we want, and then also take the time we need for ourselves. So that's one of my favorite ways to address it. Is it really came down to just our interest level, and that's okay. It's okay to grow. We were together for 3 years, so it gave us time to realize, okay, here's where my passions really lie and my strengths, and then create space for that based on it.
I love that. That's a very business attire outfit, or if that was an analogy to an outfit, it'd be business attire. Here is the more like happy hour attire explanation, which is I had to go out on leave at the beginning of the year for mental health reasons, and so Sertrice, you stepped in as CEO. You were acting CEO by all intents and purposes, and by title and everything, right? And so when I came back from that leave, first off, I was so incredibly grateful for you. Could you imagine if I didn't have a co-founder and I ran the company by myself and that happened? I would have had to shut down operations for months. And you came in, did what you already had been doing and being amazing, running the show. And then when I came back, we had two CEOs. And no company needs two CEOs. Although it is badass that our two CEOs are both women. I must call that out. So it was just such a natural, organic decision, I feel, we made. And we still see each other every week. We refer each other business. We're speaking next month, which I want to talk more about in a second. We're, developing new products together. Like DEI, I feel like, and we'll get into this too, for us to be really successful in this space, we need to be collaborating and working in partnership with each other. And I love that I still get to do that with you, Sertrice. I love it.
Yes. And I definitely tell people that part all the time. I'm like, we're still talking and doing things because that makes me happy. That's another thing people don't talk about enough, but thankfully are talking about more, is entrepreneurship is lonely. And so having those people to lean on and have conversations with is really important. So I'm glad I still have you in my corner.
Ditto. Okay, so tell the audience a little about what we're doing next month. We have a couple exciting things happening in Denver.
Yes, so exciting. So Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, they have their big inclusion conference every year, which, to be really honest, struggled with, right? Do I want to go? I have frustrations with what they've done this year, and also who plans a conference over the election. There was a lot there, but the more I thought about it, I know so many people who are still going. And so there are still important conversations happening. And while I may be frustrated with the institution, that shouldn't impact the experience that people have, right? So when our session was accepted, we went back and forth a little bit, but ultimately decided, let's go, let's share what we know, and if we have concerns with how they're talking about it, let's show them how we want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so excited, we're doing our session, how to not suck as an ally. So going to be really getting into allyship and talking about our journey, but also how do you make allyship a verb, right? How is it an action? What does that look like? Making it really tangible. So that'll be good. And then also doing one of our favorite events where we bring DEI leaders together to network and just, kind of pull the curtain back and have real talk conversations. So really excited about both of those events, but I want to give you a chance to chat about them too. Of the two, are you more excited for one than the other? Are you excited?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was going to say, like, it's no contest, the party I'm more excited about, because I love connecting with people, and what you said about the loneliness of entrepreneurship, like that rings so loud for me. And so to actually, because it's DEI leaders, right? And we've been like personally messaging DEI leaders on LinkedIn to invite them to this event, because it's not specific to SHRM, right? We happen to be in town for SHRM, but the event is at a public space, so anyone can go. So I've been inviting these DEI leaders, but I'm also inviting our friends to this event so we can see them and have them come while they're in town. And so at first I was going to say no contest the event. I think it would still win if it was a competition, but I take pause because I love speaking. I love speaking on allyship. The next book is in the works, which is really exciting about allyship. And I love speaking with you. And so I just know that the actual talk is going to be really great. So the talk is on the 7th, which is a Thursday, 9 a.m, November 7th. And the party is on November 6th. So the Wednesday, the day after election day. So if you even just need to come and have some drinks and decompress from election night, come and join us if you're in the Denver area, because it will be a really fun time. And I'm also going to drop the link to the Eventbrite into all the channels that this is streaming on today.
Perfect.
Okay. So we talked a little bit about SHRM, what's coming up. Let's talk about the now and where we're going. Okay, so DEI has shifted dramatically. I started Mattingly in 2019. You and I worked together, 21 to 24. I feel like just right now, even compared to just 2023, DEI looks so different, let alone 2020, let alone 2018, right? And so what's your take, Sertrice? Where are we at now and where do we need to go?
Yeah, it's a good question. And sorry, I was just trying to get this reshared on my side too. But I think there's so much in that question, right? And there's so many, my brain is like, where do you even go? Because DEI has looked so many ways over the years. And more recently, everyone, I feel like most people, when they start their story about DEI, they mention the murder of George Floyd in 2020, right? So many of us use that as this focal point in the work. And it's true, right? That 2020 was an instrumental year. And a lot of people did begin there, or at least they revamped, they got a lot of energy. And we saw so much happening around that time, so many conversations, so many promises. And so with that momentum, we were like, all right, progress is happening. But honestly, that momentum is not normal, right? That amount of focus on it is not something we have seen consistently over time. DEI is something, if you talk to people who have been doing this work as long as we've been alive, right? It's okay. We can go back to affirmative action. We can go back to when it was just diversity and it looked a lot different. And so DEI has consistently already been evolving. We saw a large focus on it. And with all of that momentum, we then saw this pullback, right? Where we pushed too much and people are like, oh, okay, y'all used to be in this corner, make it a little noise. Now there's too much noise. So we got to course correct and pull back, right? And so we do see a little pullback. We also see some people still pushing for it, right? But some of the conversations are changing. And so I think that's when we talk about this, I love that you titled it DEI evolution, and we're not talking about, like the death of DEI or the downfall of DEI, because I think that's false. I don't think it's going away, right? We don't all need to panic that it's gone completely, but there are changes happening, and that is consistent with what's happened since it began. So anyways, those were a lot of quick thoughts at once. We can dig deeper into any of that, but that's kind of my thought right now is we saw a lot of change. It got a big push, and now we just have to course correct and adjust a little bit, because if anybody does change management, it takes time and it takes a lot to institute change. And when you move too fast, things like this can happen. And I think that's what happened. There was a lot of promises, a lot of excitement, a lot of jumping in, which didn't lead to always the best results, which led to some of the pushback. And now here we are trying to figure out what's next.
I want to loop this back to something you mentioned earlier about SHRM and the big controversy with SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management, is that, they're really the governing body of HR, right? And so what they're doing is setting industry standards for the HR field, as they should. They're a global, they have 1 million members. They have a ton of members. People get certified in HR through SHRM. So they're like the body. And they took the E out. They're now calling it I and D. Now, if you listen to how they talk about it, they do say the equity work needs to continue to get done. They're not backing away from equity as a concept or as the work. It's just taking it out of the nomenclature just because it's getting in the way of getting things done. And so, Sertrice, how much do you see equity as being part of the future of DEI?
Yes. So that is what they said. And on the one hand, I will say I was never a person to where I like to play the alphabet soup game.
Yeah.
Right? When my clients say I want to call it IND or DEIJS, whatever letters you want to put in, it's like, okay, you call it what you need to do to get the work done at an individual level. My concern with SHRM when they made that decision was, like you said, people look to them as a best practice, right? As a role model. And immediately after they made that change, I had 2 or 3 clients say to me, did you hear about this? Do we need to pull this out? Or one of them was like saying it more so because they already didn't like the word. And they're like, well, SHRM is doing this. And now we're using this as evidence to not prioritize. So it's disappointing from SHRM because it kind of set this precedent that it's okay to not talk about equity.
Yeah.
Now, as far as what I think it'll look like moving forward, I do think it was a scary word. And I don't think SHRM was wrong when they say that using that word can lead to people kind of, their backs going up a little bit. They get nervous. And so that is why, not everyone's ready to talk about it out the gate. And that's okay. But I am concerned that now it will be talked about even less because of that change. And the truth is, if we really want the end result, if we think about belonging as an end result, or even just, creating healthy work environments, equity is a part of that. We can't completely disregard it. You have to look at your policies, practices,
Yes.
procedures. And so I am concerned about it being not talked about for a while, right? And I think there might be a dip and then it comes back as people realize, oh, wait. I think there's a possibility it'll be called something different. People really understand the word fairness, which is not the same as equity, but it might be as close as we can get in some places, which I find really interesting and complicated. But
I have a quick story about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I was so excited. I went to the Billie Eilish concert on Sunday, and I took my husband, and he had to go to the restroom, and I was really surprised because it took him longer than I thought he would need to go, because I never thought about the fact that Billie Eilish fans are like 98% women. I just never thought about that, but she's just like a women-dominated fan base, right? Which is great. So he comes back from the bathroom, and I go, babe, like, what happened? What took so long? He's like, the nearest bathroom was 10 sections away. And I was like, I looked around, I was like, that's not that bad. It's not that far. You know, he's like, V, I passed like 4 women's rooms on the way. So what they did was, whoever the planner is at PPG Place, the operations, realized we're going to have 98% women in this arena with, 40,000 people. Let's convert the majority of the male rooms, the men's bathrooms, to women's bathrooms. And so they had, it wasn't even like janky, like they just wrote a sign. They like printed out nice cardboard signs that looked just like how the sign underneath looked. So it was like very legit. I have goosebumps thinking about it, because it's like, that's equity in action. Fairness would have been, there would have been the same number of bathrooms for men and women, because men and women are 50% of the population, and they should have the same number of bathrooms. Equity is realizing that, hey, we're not starting from a 50-50. We have a 98-2 going on, and we need to adjust our policies, our bathroom policy, to reflect that actuality, that we're not at 50-50, right? And it's like, I love the example because A, I love Billie Eilish, but B, because it's not triggering. I think anyone could agree that if they didn't do that, the lines to the women's room would have been disastrous. Women would probably be using men's rooms anyway, because they would have been empty, and they wouldn't have had the safety of it feeling like this bathroom's for me. Right. And so I just love that example, and I'm going to use it like all the time now when I talk about equity.
No, that's a really good example. And like you said, I think whenever we can use real life examples, it makes it less of a scary thing.
Yes.
Because when we just hear the term, people are like, oh, you're taking something from me, and it's not fair. And yeah, getting to see that difference. But
so we talked a little bit about the past. We talked a little about the present. Where is DEI going in the future, Sertrice? And what do we need to do, like as in you and I, but also those tuning in, to make sure that we are evolving with DEI and not just getting left behind?
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest piece, right? Is be ready to evolve. We all, no matter who you are in this space, you're doing this work. We know some things, right? We have experiences, we've researched, but none of us know everything. We're all learning each day what this looks like, what it means, and also what the people we're working with are ready for. And so being ready to adapt and make adjustments as we go, instead of just saying, no, I'm right, you're wrong. And if you don't want to get with it, then you're just, you're going to fail. May not be wrong, but that mentality isn't going to help us make progress. It's not going to help us get into the rooms where we can make change and have an impact. And so I'm not saying we need to completely just, fall back and water down everything we do, but I do think we need to analyze everything that we're doing and decide, okay, what adjustments need to be made to make sure this work can continue to happen.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes because you're saying brilliant things.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And so the as far as making those adjustments, and some that I think we've alluded to, it could just be terminology. I think that's one thing that can change. And one thing I've been realizing more and more is we all already know that training is not the most impactful thing, right? By itself, research has shown you can go through all these trainings, and sometimes trainings can actually make it worse. And we also know the importance of ongoing conversation. So something I could see happening more and more in the future, if there are resources there, is like one-on-one, we can say coaching, but it's not coaching in the sense of, how do you move forward, but like DEI one-on-one coaching.
Yes.
So much of this work is that personal growth, right? And that's for leaders, sure, in your C-suite, but that's for any of your managers. It's for any of your individual contributors. It's to one question I get asked all the time is, how do you get people to not be afraid of DEI, right? And the answer is just simply conversation. You have to learn, where is their fear coming from? And then you can talk to them. And then when they're trying to, understand concepts, it's easier when you can go back and forth in a one-on-one to work through it versus here's the definition on a screen, especially if you have some deep-seated fear. And so I think if we really want to see progress and change over time, it's going to be more of that one-on-one coaching that needs to occur, which is going to be more expensive and more time consuming to have, especially let's say your organization has 1,000 people. And I'm saying you need to go around and have one-on-one conversations with each of them to get there. That's going to take some time, right? And so as DEI practitioners, being prepared for that as well. It's just the time it takes for real change.
Yeah. I love all that. I'm going to summarize that in our newsletter this week. And then I think the only thing I would add is something you and I talk about in Inclusalytics, which is the community building. We need to be building community. I want in-house people to be connecting with in-house people, external people connecting with external people, everyone connecting together and sharing. That's what our parties are all about. Hint, hint, come to our party next month. But I also wanted to quickly call out and just congratulate you on working on your next book. I know I just mentioned our book. Can you share a little bit about what's in the works with that with the audience so they can get excited for it?
Yeah. So I mentioned the one-on-one coaching. And as everyone knows, Inclusalytics was more so about at the organizational level, what are you doing? And so I'm really excited for this next book. It's going to be on inclusive leadership, and I'm co-writing it with Michael Bach, and love him. And that's going to be more as an individual. So what are you doing? And the book is really going to be more so for those people that I was just talking about, those people who are earlier on in their journey with DEI. They're trying to figure out, what does it look like? What does it mean? It's scary. I want to do it right, but I'm not sure. And so giving them the tools and skills to understand what it means to be an inclusive leader. What does that look like? So really excited for that book and to have that resource out there for those who maybe can't afford to have a DEI coach helping them out. It's something that they can lean on.
I love it. And it just gets me excited about my book that I'm working on too. And it's so related to our talk next month, because our talk is on how to not suck as an ally. And this is all about ally partnerships and how you should never ally alone, right? You should always be in partnership with someone else. And Sertrice, you're one of my biggest allies. You've been my mental health ally. You're my motherhood ally. You've just been my ally in so many ways. I'm so grateful for you. We always say never call yourself an ally. So I'm calling you an ally right now. I'm calling you out. And you're an ally for doing this video with me today. I'm so grateful to have you on. I feel like we got so much rich conversation in like less than 25 minutes. We should probably wrap up. I wanted to just share some quick highlights from what Sertrice shared about the evolution of DEI. So changes are happening. Be ready to evolve. You cannot stay stagnant. You need to adapt and make adjustments as you go. Use data to analyze the changes that need to be made. Some of those changes might look like terminology switches, but I think it's most important that DEI is so much more than training. We need to be having these in-depth conversations. We need to be having systems change. The equity work needs to get done, changing processes. So it's so much more than just training. Now's our time to kind of take a step back and be like, okay, what could we be doing more than just training to show we're taking this work seriously? Learn more each and every day, have conversations with each other. None of us have this all figured out, and build community. We are all trying to solve the same problems. Let's do it together. Sertrice, you are wonderful. Thank you again for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's always fun being on Better Humans at Work. And I'm really looking forward to getting to see you for the first time in a while next month. And I hope to see a lot of you as well, either at our session on allyship or at our networking